Alright everybody, welcome back to another Ask a Dev live Unreal Engine tutorial. My name is Kevin. We try to do these every week, and it's basically a live Unreal Engine tutorial. What we're going to do is we're going to go through, today we're going to be talking about specifically how to modify the Metahuman character picker to handle our own rigs as well as props, and I also found a way to do some mirroring. So we're going to be covering all of that stuff. PVM off the rails. Good to see you all. Welcome back. It's great to see you all. You're super dedicated, which brings me to you all, the community, all of our Patreon members, everybody who supports the community, Discord. Thank you all for being part of this adventure. It's really awesome, and I very much appreciate it. I can't remember if I said that already, but yes, my name's Kevin. I currently work as a senior principal tech artist. Get to do a lot of really cool stuff at work, but I learned a ton from you all's questions and stumbling through your little puzzles and problems together. So with that, we're going to do this. Like I said, I'm going to go through this. If you have questions as they apply to the actual tutorial, I'll stop, try to answer those, clarify, etc. Any kind of super chats and stuff like that come in, I'll definitely hang around and answer those at the end. And if we finish early, I'll definitely hang out and answer any kind of general questions that you all might have. So with that, let's hop in to Unreal. How's everybody doing today? Ready for some fun? Okay, so here we are in Unreal Engine. Now, if you recall, what we were working on was we were talking about different setups to make our animation easier. And one of the things that we were looking at was the character picker. Two of my outstanding, Josh, welcome to the stream for your first time. So a couple of our outstanding workflows as an animator coming from Maya especially that I was missing. One of them was mirroring, and a couple of them were control rig issues. So I'm constantly working on these little animations. This is a quick little walk cycle. I'm just getting better and faster in all these things, and I found a way to make the character picker a little bit easier or better for us to use. So let's talk about what the issue is and go into it. So first off, as a quick recap, or if you need a reminder, in order to get the character picker with Metahumans, you need to just install a Metahuman. Just pick a Metahuman from Quixel, add one, and it will show up. You can check that out in the previous videos that we've done for the anim setup. I will go ahead and link those in for in the chapter titles and the cards when I go back and edit the video. But inside of our Metahumans folder, in our common folder, we have our utilities, and we have the Metahuman character picker. Now, this will actually work. If we right-click this character picker and we run this, this pops up a character picker. Oh, actually, let's increase our UI font size so you all can read this a little bit better, real quick. Let's do that. Should be a little bit better. Okay, one of the things is we have our character, but usually when you go to pick this, I forgot I modified it already, that will show up blank. I'm going to show you how to fix that. Once we click that, we click on the head, we can pick our character's head and all these kinds of things when we're in the sequencer. I need to be in the sequencer. Good job. It's part of the problems with prepping for all these things. There we go. So now we can pick our character's head. Now, in order for that to work, you probably, when you're working, don't see any characters listed. It's just a blank thing. So let's take a look at what's going on with that. And to do that, what I've done is, theoretically, I've created a Ask a Dev version of the control rig character picker. And what I need to point out, or what I want to show you, is when we take a look at the selection changed. All right, so first off, step back. A utility widget is basically a UI element in Unreal Engine. It has a designer side, which is all of our buttons, and it has a graph side. This is where all the logic is when the buttons get clicked, etc. One of the things that happens is when we pick a button, it'll select it over here on the left. This is our refresh button. I love doing this because when I click on that, when I switch back to my graph, it is going to go and it's going to show me that button already selected in my variable list, and then I can click on the on click down here in the bottom left and it will take me to that. Now, this is the on clicked option for when you click that refresh button. And this is what it does. It gets the sequence actors. If we go in here and we take a look at our sequence actors, this is where this is missing what we need for our own control rigs. So let me see if I can show you real quick what I'm talking about. Let's run our editor utility widget. So this is the ask a dev one, which is literally just a modified. And usually you won't see a name here. The reason is because the way this works is what it's doing. Let's just walk through this. What it's doing is it's getting the combo box, this combo box specifically, so that you know is this combo box right here, okay? And what it's doing is it's clearing it, then it's adding the option for none. This is a great thing about visual scripting, you can just go through it. Then it's setting the selected option to none, then it's getting the current level sequence, which is the level sequence we're animating in, and then it's getting all the control rigs. Okay, when it gets all the control rigs, and this is where this is a cheat. I'm trying to find, let me see if I can quickly put back what was originally here, which I believe was this. Yeah, this is what was originally here. This is probably what you all are looking at. So let's put this back real quick just so that we have even Steven. Let me just paste this back in. Get parent, get display name, branch, and then add the option. Hold on. From there. Okay, cool. Almost there. We're just getting back to what it came in as. Let's see here. Proxy, get the display name. Not worried about the true, I don't think. And then let's just put that in as an option. I'm not going to worry about the true. Let's see if that's... Oh, I need to give it a rig. Hold on. Ignore this right now for a second. That's the array element. I'm trying to get back to what you get with the default. Where is it? Array element proxy. Ah. For each loop, break the control rig sequence. Let me just copy this whole thing. We're gonna break some stuff, y'all. Just trying to get back to where we were. Okay, so that's our level sequence. Those are the same. We're gonna feed this in. Then we're going to come through here. We're going to get the display name. And we need the add. We just deleted the add. Good job. Give me 1 second, y'all. I need to add the option to the actor combo. We're not going to do this. We're not going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. Okay. Whew. Almost there. Actor combo. See if this compiles. Okay, I believe we're back to what the default is. Let's try. Run editor utility widget, ask a dev. Yes, okay, cool. So this is what you see when you first start. Sorry about that. And when you pick it, it still works. It still picks your head and everything like that. And the reason for that is because what is happening here, now we can go back into what I was trying to explain. What is happening here by default is it's going through, recapping. We're getting our combo box, we're clearing it, we're adding none, we're selecting none, we're getting our level sequence, we're getting all the control rigs in the scene. This is where your pipeline, your animation sequence and setup matters. This was made for metahumans. When the metahumans were built, they're generally assuming your control rig is parented to a blueprint. So what they're doing in here is they're getting the control rig that is underneath a character blueprint, for example, an actor blueprint. So this get parent, when we get the control rigs, it's getting the parent blueprint. And that parent blueprint is getting the display name. And that is why when you open this for a metahuman, you see Ada, Bob, whatever all their names are, etc. And it's adding those options. But for us, it's not adding them. Why is it not adding? Because in our level sequence, if you look at the way we built our level sequence, and depending on how you're set up, we literally just dragged our control rig into the scene. And so with adding this, with having our control rig in the scene, we don't have any blueprints. We don't have a parent. So when it goes out to get the name, there's no name to display. So we need to understand how our pipeline is set up, how the scene is set up, which is cool. All right, so we're gonna make one slight change, which you already we cheated and saw a preview of it. And it's pretty simple. When we go through all of the control rigs, rather than getting the parent, you have two options. You can either make sure that when you set up your scenes or your level sequences, you are only adding control rigs that have a blueprint parent, or what we can do is we can hijack this a little bit. And rather than even worrying about getting the parent or the display name or anything like that, all we can do is we can delete this, okay? And then from this control rig, we can get the display name on the control rig. And then that's what we add to our options. So here's what's happening now. We go through, we get all of our control rigs, and then we get the display name. It doesn't matter if it's part of a blueprint or not, and we're going to add that option. So let's compile, save that, and let's go back and give that a shot. So this is ask-a-dev, run the editor utility widget, and hopefully we see, there we go. Now we see the control rig name. That's what, that makes this our pipeline friendly, which is really cool because now I actually know which one I'm actually selecting and stuff. Again, I need to be, oh shoot, I need to be in the sequencer. When we do this, run editor utility widget. Okay, let me get this, refresh. There we go. So now we have our head. Okay, so now we've actually fixed the picker to work with non-blueprint. Now you'll need to make your fix accordingly. The important thing to understand though is when we're looking at the designer, there are two places that you potentially need to make an update. The first one is, and it's easiest to find if you click on this refresh button, you need to find the function, in this case, the get sequence actors. You need to update this to get the display names from whatever it is you're using, however you're set up. And the other potential one is in the event graph under get selected control rig. What we're doing here is this one's a little bit kind of the same thing. What we're doing here is when we save the selected control rig, this is what happens on the combo box change. What it does is, and this is important, so what am I specifically talking about? I'm talking about in this view, when you change the control, if you had more than one character in here, what's going to happen is it's going to execute an onChange command. That onChange command is this one here. What does that do? This goes through, it gets the level sequence, gets the control rigs, and notice it's passing in the selected item. So that's the name of our character control rig. So it gets the current level, gets the control rigs, and then it goes through each of the control rigs. This is what this for each loop does. For each control rig in the level sequence, I'm going to get the parent, I'm going to get the display name, and then based on the branch, I'm going to set the selected control rig. Now, this is still technically working, I think, because the parent of the control rig is itself, and so the display name is equal. But if you wanted to make it work for yours, or kind of like what we're doing right now, based on what we built, hold on, let me find it, just double check my notes. Yeah, what we would do is rather than checking against the parent, we don't need this. Okay, what we can do is we can say get display name here. And all we're doing, the goal of this is just to check that the current of all of the control rigs in the scene, the one that we've gotten a list of is the one that it was currently selected. If that's true, we're going to set this selected control rig. That selected control rig is the one that is used to drive all of our selections. So let's compile and save that, and we should be good to go. So that is a quick update to the character picker to make it more friendly for us. And now it will actually select, once again, I keep forgetting to go into this, so that it will select the head, all of the spine stuff, everything that you need, which is great. Does anybody have any questions on that before we move into props and weapons? Okay, let's double check our Twitch. Okay, we're good to go. Okay, so this is really cool, but what if we have props in our scene? And this was actually a request during the last stream, or on one of the YouTube comments. Wouldn't it be great if we could actually update this picker to handle props and stuff too? And we can. Now, there's the easy road, and then there's the not so easy road. So we're gonna start with the easy road. We're gonna make it so that this picker will work for our props. So first we need a prop, and I wanna make sure I've got the names of all body offset control. Okay, great. So we're gonna do a little bit of rigging, you all. All right, and what we're going to do is in our content browser, I have a weapon. This weapon, just so you know where it came from, this weapon is the rifle that is part of the Lyra project. So if you have the Lyra project, you can go to the rifle, the SK rifle, right click on it, choose, you just right click on it in the other project, not in this one, in the other project, you right click on it, choose asset actions, choose migrate. Migrate that to whatever project you're working in, and you'll be good to go. Now, once we have the rifle, this is a skeletal mesh. What I'm going to do is create a control rig for this. So if we right click on this skeletal mesh and underneath create, we choose control rig, that actually creates a control rig for our rifle. If we double click on that, this is basically us setting up a custom rig for our prop. And the reason is I want to show you how easy it could be to set up these props. So what I'm going to do for the root control, I'm going to create two controls on this. I'm going to create a root and a body offset. So let's do a new add controls for selected. That's our root control. It created it right there. I'm going to duplicate that by pressing Control D, and I am going to call this strategically the body underscore offset underscore control. So let's do that. This is going to be our body underscore offset underscore control. And I'm being strategic about this. Parent it by picking it and dragging it up underneath. Let's make a couple of changes to our shapes. I'm going to make the main shape just a giant circle. We can make it, or actually let's make it a circle thick. And we'll change the color to yellow. And let's scale it. Okay, so that is our root for this. Everybody following me? Good morning, Caesar. Welcome to the stream. Okay, so now we have our root. Now let's update our body offset. I'm going to make this a box thick. I'm also going to change this to a yellow color. We'll call it okay. Okay, so all we need to do, we now have our controls, super simple. What we're going to do is we are going to keep this very basic. We are going to set our root bone position to the transform. We're gonna, okay, let me go back and recap that. If you're not following our control rig series, the control rig series goes into each part of this little by little, but the point here is not to understand how to set up a control rig. The point here is to understand we are setting up a very basic control rig so we can hijack and steal the stuff for our props and our sequences. So if you're like control rig, small rig, whatever, just bear with me for a second. So first, what we need to do for a control rig to work is in our forward solve, I'm going to set the root joint location. So I'm choosing set bone. This is going to set that transform. And I'm going to set it to the location. I'm going to drag off my body offset control and choose get control. I'm going to set it to the transform of my body offset control. The reason I'm doing that is when I do that, what that does is that gives me, if I now pick my body offset control and move it, you'll notice that my weapon moves. If I compile it, and if I move my root control, if I can pick it, my weapon also moves. Okay, so we've just successfully made it a very simple control rig. So let's compile and save that. And now let's use this control rig. So happily animating away, whether you're doing cinematics animations or game assets or virtual stuff, whatever it is, you need a weapon. Okay, cool. So let's drop in our control rig for our rifle. Now here's what's cool. All right, what you'll notice that the control rig has a bunch of controls in it that allow me to pick and animate and all those kinds of things. Well, we strategically set it up so that our control rig had the same naming as our character rig. So we have a root control and we have a body offset control. And what that means is, theoretically, because live demos always go super well, is underneath our utilities, if we bring up our AskADev character picker, which again is just the Metahuman one, okay, nothing fancy. When we go to our sequencer, if we refresh this, when we look at this, look at what happens. That little change we made where we're getting the names of all the control rigs in the scene to fill in our dropdown, we now have the option to choose not only our character, where we can choose our character root, but we can also choose our rifle. And if I click on root for rifle, look at what it picks. It picks the rifle root. But not only that, because we set it up so that it was named the same at the offset level, what that means is I can pick the offset too. Okay, so what we're going to do is, let's just go ahead and do an attach here, etc. Let's take this. And in our tracks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an attach track, and I'm going to attach it to the mannequin body. And in the mannequin body, I'm going to go for the right hand, I believe. Okay. And then I need to do some adjustments to my offsets in my attaches, which are, oh, well, let's also make it the whole length. We'll make it the whole length. Okay, so it doesn't just drop off. That should cover that. And then let's just double check that all of our controls are zeroed. And our attached details, we need to set these to 0. Okay, so our rifle is now in our character's hand. Let's go ahead and rotate that. I believe it's -90 in Z. Nope, +90 in Z. There we go. So our rifle is now attached, and if we scrub and play, our character is now walking with a rifle in his hand, which is cool. All right, so typical setup. There's many different ways to do this. You can drag and drop it over on the right in the anim outliner. There's a lot of different ways to attach, but that's just using the attach mechanism. And now what I can do is, the great thing about this is, if I'm back here at frame 1, and because I specifically set the rig up so I could attach the root, I now have the ability to animate this offset. So if I wanted to reposition this down, for some reason it is picking a bunch of these other things, like it positions it down and further into their hand. So that should give me access to this. But the overall point is I can now control, I can now control where this weapon is, simply because I put the offset in there. I'm pretty sure it doesn't pop. Okay. Now there's something going on. I may have done my attach. There's definitely something going on with me being able to move this control. Could be my control rig or whatever. But the bottom line, the goal of this though was, however you're set up, whatever it is you're doing, you want to be able to pick root controls, etc. You can actually set your character picker up to do that just by creating a control rig for your prop, a simple control rig, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden it will show up here, which is great. This also means that you can create, now you know how to create an entirely separate picker for if you have something like a prop that has many different moving widgets and parts in it. you can set up an entirely new picker and you know how to make it so you can activate it for that particular character. Right? Okay, cool. So that is the fun version of setting up props. But let's do something a little bit more entertaining, a little bit more difficult, if you will. And yeah. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for hopping in. Okay, so what we're going to do now is that's great if it's a control rig, but what if it's not? What if it's like just a box, for example? Something that doesn't have it. Well, we can do that too. So let's do that. All right, in order to do that, what I'm going to do is let's collapse this down. We'll leave our rifle and our rig and stuff in here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a cube in my scene. Okay. Nothing too crazy. If we look at our outliner, we can see we have cube 2, which is cool. And what I want to do is I want to add this. Let's pretend I'm animating this cube. It's a moving platform. Maybe it's small enough that it can pick it up. It's the Allspark. I don't even know. Whatever it is, I'm going to add this cube to a track, and I'm going to add this add actor to let's see, cube 2. Okay, so now I have a cube 2 track, but my picker will not let me pick this cube. I have no way to pick this cube because the cube is not going to show up in here. Why not? Because it's not a control rig. It's literally just a static mesh. But maybe I've done animation on static meshes and I need to create a new button on the character picker so that I can pick this static mesh, whatever it happens to be. Remember, this is a stand-in for whatever your prop is, okay? So here's what we're going to do. We're going to add a button. Let's do it. So in our character picker, if we go to the designer view, we're going to keep this simple. Let's take a nice square, for example. Oops, I moved it. And let's just duplicate that. And I duplicated that by pressing Control D. I'm going to move this down. Whoa, a little bit excited about that. Here we go. This is going to be our cube selector. And I'm going to change the color of it by changing the tint over here. We're going to make it yellow, for example. Just choose OK. And I'm also going to rename this. I'm going to call this prop. Let's call this prop control. Okay, so what we have done effectively is we have created a new button on our widget. And what we need to do is when we click that button, we want to pick our cube. So that means that we need to go into the event graph. If we go into the event graph and we're just looking at the normal event graph, there's a lot going on in here. It's not that crazy. It's literally just picking a bunch of controls and selecting them. But what we want to do is for our prop control, we want to add an on-clicked. So when we do that, that's over here in the bottom left. These are all the events you could do. You can do on-clicked, on-pressed, on-released, on-hovered, whatever. On-clicked is generally the go-to, probably 75 or 90% of the time. So we click on on-clicked. That is going to create an on-clicked event for us. So now when we click our prop control, it will do whatever we tell it to do inside of here. Now, what we are going to tell it to do inside of here is a lot like we're going to steal the logic that's kind of happening up here, much in the same way. We're going to get the current level sequence, we're going to get a list of things, and we're going to pick one of them. All right, so let's come back down here, and we're going to, everybody with me so far? Seems like, I think you all are still here. All right, so let's get the current level sequence. Current level sequence. Okay, and with that, we are going to, actually, yeah, there's a couple things we're going to do here, but we're going to get all actors of class. Get all actors of class. And the class that we're going to get is going to be whatever your prop is. In this case, my prop happens to be a static mesh actor. It's a cube. Whatever yours is, this is what you would do. I don't know how your prop pipeline is set up, but generally speaking, this is how you would do it. In this case, our class is a static mesh actor. Okay. Now, what I want to do is I kind of want to store this. So I'm actually going to make a variable for this. And we'll get to that in a second. But basically for each one, let's do this for each. So for each static mesh actor, what I want to do is I want to see if oh, we want to, oh, wait, hold on a second. I got a little bit ahead of myself. Okay, what we want to do is we want to get the selected one, but we don't have a selected one. Why don't we have a selected one? Because we forgot in our designer, these are our actors. Let's make another change here. We're going to do this. This is our button to select it. I'm going to duplicate this. Okay, I'm going to duplicate this combo box by pressing Control D. And the reason I'm doing this is I want this combo box to show me all of my static mesh actors, or props in your case, that I could use. So let me put this in place, and I'm going to actually call this, rather than actor combo box, I'm going to call this the prop. Not the Oreo, the prop. The prop combo box. Okay, and then much like we do with our actor combo box, when we first start, we get all of the actors in the scene. We're going to need to get all of the prop actors. So here's what we're going to do. Let's go ahead and go back. Let's compile and save that just in case we crash, because that has been a thing. Let's go back to our graph. And in our graph, underneath the functions, we have get sequence actors. We're going to do get prop actors. So I'm going to press Control D here. I'm going to call this get prop actors. Prop actors. Okay, and then just like we did for the control rigs, we're going to do it for our props. So what we'll do is we can, rather than using the actor combo box, we're going to be using the prop combo box, which is this alphabetical? It is, great. We're going to get our prop combo box, and we're going to feed this in. So we're going to clear the options. That's fine. We'll add an option of none, and we'll also set the selected to none. Okay, basically just replacing that. We'll get our level sequence, but this time we're not going to get our control rigs. Okay, we are going to be doing something a little bit different in here. Let's delete all this. Okay, and what we need to do with our level sequence is we need to get the bindings. Get the bindings. Now, what is this? What this is this is effectively getting us all of the stuff that is bound in each of these tracks. Okay, so we're going to get the bindings, and then for each one, we're going to do a for each loop here. For each one, we are going to get the possessed object class. Get the possessed object class. So what we're looking for here is we're looking for our static mesh actors. So let's see if this is equal to a static mesh actor. And if it is, basically we're going to do a branch. I held B and left click to bring that up quickly. If it is a static mesh actor, if that's true, I am going to get the display name on this. Let's drop this down. Let's get the whoops. Drag off of here, get the display name. And with that display name, I am going to add it to our combo box. So we're just getting a list. Don't let this confuse you. We're just getting a list of all the static mesh actors that are in a track. Okay, so we're going to add this option to our combo box if it's there. Now all we need to do, so now we've created our function that gets all the prop actors. Now we just need to call it. Where do we call this? Well, what we're going to do, compile and save, in our event graph on the begin, which is, where is this? visibility. Let me see if I can find it over here. Event graph, pre-construct. Yeah, on the pre-construct. You can see we're getting our sequence actors. All we're going to do is get our prop actors. Get our prop. This function that we just made. Okay, so let's test that. Let's see how we did with that. Compile and save. Go back to our anim stage. Let's bring up our control picker, run our utility widget, and you'll notice we now have two drop downs. I'm not being particularly picky or OCD with the UI right now. We have our actors. These actors are our control rigs, and then under none, look at that. We have cube 2. So we now have created a drop down for selecting non-control rig characters. Okay, I told you this was a little bit more the straight diesel version of this. So bottom line, all we've done is gotten a list of all of our static meshes that are part of a track. Now, the reason I'm showing you this is you may not be using static meshes. Who knows what your props are made of? It does not matter. All you need to do is get a list of them to fill in a dropdown. That's the first step. Now that the dropdown is filled, what we need to do is, if you pick one of those, we need to set that as what we're going to pick. So let's do that. And let me just double check my notes. That's the pose. Hold on one second. Okay. We're just going to skip that step. Is everybody with me so far? Okay. I think you all are still here. All right, here we go. So now what we need to do is we need to go back to what we were doing here. Okay, so what we're going to do is when we click, remember where we are right now, we are trying to make it so that this big yellow button will pick the cube, our static mesh cube. Okay, so if we come back here to our graph, when we click this little find button, it'll go back to our function. This is when we click that. What we're doing is we're getting the level sequence, we're getting all the static mesh actors. For each of those, what we're going to do is we're going to check to see, let's get the display name, get the display name. For each of those, we're just going to check to see if it matches what's in our prop combo box. So here's our prop combo box. Let's get the selected objects, get selected option, sorry, not objects, and we're going to see if these are equal. We're going to see if they're exactly equal. So this is, notice I pressed equal 3 times. I want to check to see if they are exactly the same. I'm going to connect that in, and if it's true, the way I brought up the branch is I held B and left click, okay? If it's true, what we're going to do is we're going to add that to our props to select. Okay, so we do not have props to select yet. So what I need to do is I need to maybe promote this to a variable. Promote to variable. So I'm going to drag off there. I'm going to rename this to be prop to select. Prop to select. But I actually need to make this array an array, props to select, to make my life easier. If some of this is intense, there's an entire series on for loops and arrays in the fundamental sections in the videos. You can check those out. But basically, what I want to do is we have now created a variable, props to select, which is here, and I need to change this to an array. Okay, so what I want to do now, let's compile, save that. If this is true, I want to add that prop to the things I'm going to select. So let's drag this out and choose add. Now we could do add or we could do add unique. If you don't do add unique, hold on, let me finish what we're adding. We're going to add one thing at a time, Kevin. All right, we're going to add this one. If this is true, if the one that is in the actor, all the actors of the class is equal to the one that's in our prop combo box, I'm going to add it to the array of props that I want to select. If we do not do add unique, this is important, we need to clear the prop array at the beginning. So what I'm going to do here is when we first start, I'm going to get the prop array and I'm going to clear this. That way, each time I click this, if I have more than one prop in my scene, it won't automatically keep adding to it. So first things first, clear the props that we're going to select. Make sure it's empty so it's clean. Then we're going to get the level sequence. We're going to get all the static mesh actors. We're going to go through all the static mesh actors, get their display names, check to see if it's the same as the one that we have selected in our combo box. If it is, we are going to add that actor to our props to select. We are almost there, you all. So what we're going to do is now, when all of this is said and done, let me make some room. When all this is said and done, what we're going to do is we are going to get something called the editor actor subsystem. This is a subsystem. Basically, it gives us access to a bunch of cool tools. It's part of the whole editor utility widget stuff, and that's what this this picker is. It's a editor utility widget. So from here, there's a cool thing we can do, and we can do set selected level actors. Now, what are we going to set as our level selected actors? Hey, look, these are our props to select. We're just going to plug this straight in here. So our props to select now is connected to this. So when we're done checking to see if everything matches, what we're going to do is we're going to tell the editor actor subsystem to pick our cube in this case whenever we click the big yellow button. So let's see how we did. Compile and save. Okay, so here's our cube. We can't cheat. We need to make sure it's not selected when we start. Let's right click and run our editor utility widget. We need to select our cube too. And when we click the yellow button, look at that. It worked. When live demos go right. Okay, cool. So that actually will pick the cube too. If we unselect it and we have none selected and we click on it, it doesn't pick anything. Okay, so that is how we could use the editor subsystem, which is part of control widgets, to not only pick static mesh actors if your props are set up that way, but you could even, maybe you even have a class, maybe you even have a blueprint class, a blueprint prop class. You could do it that way. There are many ways you could connect this in, but the overall point is that the 2 or 3 things that you need is you need to get a list of them to fill in your dropdown. Then with that list, you need to basically get the one that's selected and check to see if it's the same, and then you can connect it to your button. So that wraps up how to hack, update, whatever words you want to use, the Metahuman character picker to add a couple features that would potentially be beneficial towards your workflow. Now, how are we with questions on that before we go on to mirroring? Because mirroring is next. And we only have 15 minutes, so we have a bunch to do to see if we can get through this. Any questions? Okay. It's all crickets. So either everybody completely understands all this stuff, or you're just very excited about mirroring. Okay. If you recall, in the dragon animated dragon cycle and the animation setup video, one of the things that I was particularly interested in was how do we make mirroring setups, because we don't really have a mirroring tool yet. And so I found a cool little workaround for this. So what we're going to do is we are going to add a button to our picker that will allow us to mirror whatever we have selected. And I'm hoping that over time this is going to get updated. But for now, what do we need to do mirror? We need a button. So let's go back and edit our character rig picker. And we'll go back to designer. And I'm just going to duplicate this by pressing Control D when I pick on it. And I'm going to rename this. This is going to be mirror selected. Actually, I'm going to call this button mirror selected. Okay, and then let's position it. We'll just put it over here for now. This is probably not how I would lay this out, but for the purposes of the demo, we just need it on the screen. And now that it's there, let's just once again compile and save. We'll go to the graph, and in the graph, what we want to do is we want to implement our button. We want to add the on-clicked event. So our button's already selected because it was picked in the designer. So down here, once again, bottom left, repetition is key. We'll go ahead and click on the event for on-clicked, and this is going to add a new event that whenever we click this button, it's going to do whatever we tell it to do. This is the fun stuff. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I want to remember. I want to make sure I get this right, so give me 1 second to check my notes. Okay, here's what we're going to do. This is going to, actually, interestingly enough, yeah, okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the current level sequence, just like we normally do. Get the current level sequence. And we may not need this now that I think about it. We may not need this. I don't even think we need that, but I'm going to leave it there for right now. But what we are going to use is we are going to get our selected control rig, which is a variable somewhere in here. Functions, variables, selected control rig. Let's get that. We're going to get our selected control rig. And from that, we are going to break. We're going to break the control rig sequence binding proxy. What this is going to do is this is going to give me direct access to the control rig. And with this, I'm going to save a pose. Nope, that's not what I'm going to do. Yeah, that is what I'm going to do. Interesting. Let's try this. Save pose. Oh. It's almost like it doesn't realize that that's a control rig. Okay, let's do one other thing. We are going to, I know what we need. Let's do this. We need a pose. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to create a temporary pose. Easiest way to do that is if we come to our control rig or our sequence view and we bring up our poses. You can see I already have one in here, so we're not going to cheat here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select all the controls for this guy, plus maybe our feet, for example. And this is actually kind of cool because we could also use this as a selection tool within our control rig. Let me get the other foot too real quick. Okay, and I'm going to create a new pose for this, which for some reason is grayed out. Why would that be grayed out? Interesting. Hold on a second, y'all. I need a minute to figure out why this is grayed out. Something's funky. Let's do this. Let's save everything and reopen it. Basically, we just need to create a pose. Let's close our sequencer. Let's go, maybe we just look at our control rig directly. Let's go to our rigs, mannequin body. No, it's not there. It's in the animation tools. It's definitely in the animation tools. Let's go back to our sequences and just see if reopening it will get us to where we need to be. And mannequin body, body offset, poses. Oh, now it's highlighted. Okay. Sure. Let's pick all of our controls. Okay, and let's create a pose. And what we're going to do, you can see I called the last one Mirror Temp. I'm going to call this one Live Mirror Temp. Okay, we're going to create this. Now the reason for this asset is what we're going to be doing is we are going to be reusing this asset. We're going to be reusing this asset as basically every time we click this button, what's going to happen is it's going to overwrite this asset and then it's going to use it again. So we just need it as a temp. That's why I called it temp. And then what we're going to do in our picker is we are going to create a variable out of that. So let's go back to our picker, which is under utilities. It's our ask a dev picker. Here we go. And we need a new variable, which should be underneath our graph, variables. And this is going to be the mirror pose. Mirror pose, for example. Mirror pose. Oh, I guess I already had one. So let's call this live mirror pose. Live mirror pose. And this is going to be of type pose. So let me show you. In the list, I believe if we type in pose, this is called, I gotta remember which one it is. Rig pose, I believe it is. Let's double check. Control rig, this is important. It's a control rig pose asset type. Okay, so this is a control rig pose asset type. All right, great. So now we've got that. Now, what we need to do is let's get our live mirror pose. And what we're going to do with it is we are going to save the pose. So back up. Now that we have our temporary mirror pose created, we've stored that as a variable for our widget. And now what we're going to do is when we click our mirror button, we are going to take that live mirror pose temporary asset and we are going to save the pose. Okay, we're going to save the current pose, the pose the character is in on the pose. And the control rig that we are going to use is the one that we currently have as selected. I'm going to use all for now. And then what we're going to do once we save the pose, because that takes a snapshot of where we are currently, right? Makes sense, we just saved the pose. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to mirror it right away. So here we go. We're going to take this same live mirror pose and we are going to paste it. Not post it, we're going to paste it. So we'll paste the pose. Now when we paste the pose, we are going to once again use this same control rig. And then we want to do mirror. You can choose whether or not you do key or not. Maybe you have a mirror button, you have a mirror and key button. I don't know. It's kind of up to you all. But the point is you can kind of control this how you want to. Let's compile and save that. See if we're 2 for 2 in the live demos today, huh? Okay, so here we go. Let's run our utility widget. Let's set our character mannequin. There we go. And what we want to do is we want to see if mirroring works. So let's pick our left and right foot. And I'm nervous, y'all. Moment of truth. Is this gonna work? Okay, here we go. Let's click on mirror. And I don't think that, oh wait, I'm not in my sequence. So none, mannequin body, foot and foot. I don't, oh wait. Do key. We are actually clicking this. Are we actually getting here? Let's double check this. Our head works. These are our feet. Okay, we are getting here. And we should be paid. Oh, we didn't set the pose. My fault. Okay, so we need to step out of this. Okay, So what we need to do is we need to give it a pose. We forgot one step. In this live mirror pose, we need to, it's down here in the bottom left. You'll notice that it's currently set to none. We need to actually set this to be the, let's see here, live mirror temp. That's the one that we're going to be setting. Okay, we didn't fill that in. All right. Now let's try this. Okay, so let's relaunch our picker. Run that widget. Set our, go back to our sequence. Set our mannequin body. Okay, and then our head works. Great. Let's pick our feet. And mirror. Oh. Of course. Oh, but it worked. Did you see that? It mirrored the feet. Let's do that again. We're mirroring our feet now. Awesome. Okay, so even though we don't have a proper mirroring tool, basically, even though we don't have a proper mirroring tool, we are able to use what we do have, a little bit of knowledge in our of how basically editor utility widgets work, this control rig picker, etc. And now all of a sudden we can actually create our own custom mirroring button. And this will work based on whatever you have selected. So if you, for example, if you combine this with the select all button that we had before, basically what you can do is you can pick your whole character and pick your pose. And what that means is, especially for things like cycles, we can get back into that world where we animate the first half and then we can just quickly mirror everything over to basically copy the first half of our cycle to the last half of our cycle. So that pretty much wraps up with 2 minutes to spare. The couple of things that I wanted to show you all as far as some discoveries I made with control rig, how to modify the picker, to hopefully help you out with your own prop and weapon workflows, as well as some understanding of how you can modify this to the next level to kind of do other things as well as mirroring. So that's it. Does anybody have any questions about this tutorial, or maybe even a general one before we wrap for today? Y'all have been pretty quiet in the chat. All right. Well, we'll call that a wrap then. As always, you all know how this works. Anything you can do to help support the community is awesome. Obviously, we have the Patreon and stuff like that, but we also have the Discord server. There's a lot of people in there helping out. Anything you do to spread the word helps out the channel. That's great. Thanks, all of you. Caesar, Yaya, Josh, Off the Rails, PBM. Thanks for hopping in the stream. It's always good to see you all. Hopefully, we'll see you on either Discord or in an upcoming live stream. We've got a couple more control rig videos coming out this weekend. I am currently getting my Bahuki kicked seriously hardcore by the next proceduralization control rig video, but that is also coming out pretty soon. So keep an eye out on the channel. And Subza, didn't even see you hop in. Thanks for joining the stream. And I will see you all on the next one. Take it easy.